Hey everybody, this is Tyson
And Logan.
and you're listening to Dad Bods Beards podcast. It's a show that gives you a fresh look on being a father, a husband, and honestly a man being in today's world.
For people who want to have a good time, laugh, and be uplifted, thanks for subscribing and listening. Now for the show.
Okay, so the whole thing, I kind of wanted to start out today just talking to you about, I've been going through a lot of hard things in my life,
Yeah.
and through three children who I feel like are going through all three different types of things, to finances, to company, to possibly shutting down the barbershop, all this kind of stuff. It's been really weighing on me to the point where it's messed up my stomach, it's messed up my sleep schedule. It's messed with my emotions, to the point where there was, we'll get into that part. But I listened to our podcast once, always. I just do, just to support us.
Yeah, it's weird.
But in my mind, I'm just like, there's a lot of people who I feel like, I was there. I don't really need to hear it. But this past episode where you talk about your vulnerabilities and lifting people up and stuff, it got me, and being grateful. And Candace actually said, this is one of your best ones. She's like, you guys always revert back to talking about being grateful and I'm like, yeah, because it's really on our minds a lot.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, I just wanted to let you know that really, I've listened to it 3 times. And I've never done that before in any of our episodes, just because what you say, what you do in that episode, really, you touched my heart.
Thanks, dude. I didn't know that. I didn't realize you listened to it. I mean, same thing. I listened to him a few times just with like editing and posting and doing the social media stuff and like running through it once or twice before we throw it up live on YouTube and things. But I think, like I was saying a minute ago, like I kind of disassociate and like try to take myself out of it because you can get the ick watching yourself speak. But yeah, I mean, we were just talking about this last night because it's been a year since we had the idea a lot longer than a year since we kicked off Dad Bods and Beards, and we didn't intend for it to become the topics that we talked about. Like we were like, oh, we'll talk about some issues, we'll talk about this, we'll talk about that. But it was like the first episode or two, like we just started talking and it got heavy and it got deep in a good way. And it's turned into this. And I feel like regardless of what reach we do have now or what we might have later, like this has just given me so much of my own perspective on my own life. Right. And I feel like you and I have gotten closer and we've gotten messages and DMs, and I'll share some of those. I screenshot a few that I'll share today because obviously we haven't alluded to it enough. We're talking about mental health today. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. It's very important to both of us, not only in your own mental health, but some of the people in your family, and then my own mental health and some of the people that I care about. So yeah, I know that means a lot. I mean, that one was, you can tell there was some hard stuff for me to get out. Not because I don't want to talk about it, but just because it's, when you talk about memories, when you talk about things that that were so, whether it's traumatic or like emotional or whatever, like it's hard not for for you to remember what the feelings felt like. And that's where the kind of emotions come from me. I'm an emotional guy. Like everybody knows that.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying.
Nothing wrong with that.
I get it from my mom. Like I just, when something starts hitting me right in the heart, I get choked up. And so when I talk about these things, I've confused some people sometimes, and like I'm not still silently struggling with that as much as I used to. The sad part about bipolar and mental health is that it never goes away. There's always the fear in the back of my mind that I could trip up. Well, no, that kind of implies fault, like I did something wrong. Like things could rear their ugly head later. Medication could stop working as well. I could fall off a disciplined schedule that I have of helping myself, and so like that's the fear of mental health that causes me a lot of stress. But I know I've seen things weighing on you a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't know if this is the time we talk about it,
We
but
don't have to. No. But no, I mean, obviously I see a lot of but literally behind the scenes,
hmm
and I mean, that's where I think like the mental health, I mean, like just like the male friendship and camaraderie is so important. That's, I feel like, why we push it so much.
So when did we discuss your bipolar, like on scale? How long ago was that?
Oh, I don't know. I'd say probably like 6 or 8 months ago, something like that. It was
So
a
how have you been doing since? Like I know, but what, like
yeah.
how has it affected you? Have you noticed a difference? You sometimes you talk about your wife and how she sometimes is waiting for maybe something to happen,
Yeah.
and how is that all working out?
So one thing that my wife and I have talked a lot about is that, kind of living with bipolar and the fact that it is so what's the word I'm looking for? Like he just unpredictable.
Yeah, it's a good word.
That she, she's expressed before that, like, sometimes she's waiting for the other shoe to drop,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's just and rightfully so, because there's been so many experiences over the years where the other shoe has dropped, or like in so I don't ever want to give the impression to anybody ever that, like, I've got it figured out. I'm set for life. Like, I have all the answers. Like, I just want to share my perspective of what has worked for me. And, kind of, we were just talking about this with producer Tommy a second ago, of like sometimes getting that conversation from a buddy or a friend or somebody who's not necessarily, like, quote, an expert,
Mm-hmm.
like, that is sometimes can be more meaningful, impactful. And that, I had those experiences in my own life, so I'm trying to turn around and do the same, like we talked about last episode, trying to help up the person behind me, whether that's through social media or friends. So how I'm doing is just, I'm just trying to, like, pay it forward as best as I can. And it's kind of selfish because I feel like it's helping me more than I even expected it to. So I'm kind of on this high with it. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean?
Well, I when I was teaching, so I this is weird. We're going way back in the day. So back in 2004 ish,
Sure.
Candace and I were married, all this kind of stuff, and I had a teacher who got diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. He was teaching, literally teaching. He was a math teacher, and he was teaching, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, he fell.
Yeah.
And they're like, "This isn't right. This isn't normal." And so then he found out, and within 3 months, he passed away.
Yeah.
So a bunch of us had to take on his class as students because I was a tutor at that time and everything like that. And the thing that I learned is that the more you teach, the more that you're in front of someone helping them understand,
Interesting.
the more you understand, the more you can your ability to understand yourself, the ability to understand the problem. And so I really like that once you figure out, and not necessarily figure out, but once you feel confident enough in your abilities, pay it forward.
Yeah.
And it really does. It helps you become more grateful, helps you become more attuned to your understanding, and also helps you understand that there's
Yeah.
more people suffering, not just you.
Yeah. And and I like that. I mean, I guess I 100% see that, because that's kind of what I'm doing, of like, that's the whole point of, like, mental health awareness month.
Mm-hmm.
Bring awareness, because you have to help end the stigma. I know, like, some people probably roll their eyes at that, and it's probably people that don't experience any mental health or mental illness issues, or have any, like, firsthand experience with someone they care about, or just someone in their life.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and to me, that almost seems kind of like odd, that, like, there are people out there that, not that I'm calling them odd, but it's like, how, like it's so prevalent in such a part of my everyday life. Like, it's kind of unfathomable for me to think that, like, so you're just, like, good like, all the time. And, or like, you've never had anybody in your family. I mean, not that I'm saying that people are like, well, unfortunately, there are people who are very negative about it. And I have something, a message I'm going to share in a little bit, from somebody that infuriated me, that they took the time to direct message me what they did
Hmm.
about mental health. And I'm
Did you
like,
even
you're
tell?
the
Did you tell me this?
I don't think I did. But is like, you're like, we'll get to that. I'm not going to spoil that yet. But yeah, it just kind of blows my mind that, like, and I'm insanely happy for people in that area that don't they don't have this a part of their everyday life. And
Or do they? Meaning,
oh,
I feel like there's a lot. I think everyone is going through something,
sure.
but we shut it out, or we ignore it, or we don't say anything. Um, and don't acknowledge it. But I
Yeah.
really do believe that all of us are going through something, that have gone through something. I mean, it might not be finances, it
Yeah.
might be marital problems, it might be car problems. There's something going
Yeah.
on. And I mean, there's something about grind, there's something about grit, there's something about like just going and taking care of it even when you're stressed. I mean, that's you and I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Like things just have to get done. Doesn't matter how you feel. But at the same time, it's okay to say, this is rough. It's okay to say, I don't want to do this, but I'm
Yeah.
going to do it. I don't want to. And it's just like last night, you knew I didn't want to film.
Yeah.
I did
You
not
know,
want to film. But dude, some of the content we created, I was grateful
it was
for.
pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Like even the one that we probably won't share,
Yeah.
I think was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
But I felt like it helped our friendship, even though
Yeah.
we don't need to work on it. But I feel like you were saying some people don't suffer. Like I feel like if you stay stagnant and you don't work on yourself, you're falling backwards.
Hmm.
And if you are working on yourself, you're going moving forward. And so as you're working on yourself and continuing, you're going to progress. And I think everyone's if you're idle, you're
Yeah.
falling back.
Well, and I like that you're saying that. And I think that one differentiation and like cleared like divide we need to make is the difference between mental health in general and
Mm-hmm.
mental illness.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Everybody needs to be focusing on mental health
Mm-hmm.
because like you said that's dealing with stresses of life, car problems, money problems, marital problems, kids problems, like just stuff at work, things that weigh heavy on you because everybody experiences highs and lows, middle, mid grounds, whether the a high like high emotional state because something, you know, something bad happened or a high emotional state because you got married, you had a baby, you got a promotion. Like there is that spectrum of high and low that everybody experiences. And then the mental illness is the chemical imbalance that sometimes you can't control that naturally without the assistance of a professional, a trusted individual or a medication or some kind of treatment plan. So that's sometimes there is a ton of crossover right between mental health and mental illness, but so that's where like mental health awareness month is just generally talking about everybody. When I said that, I'm glad you said that because it helps me clarify that when I was saying people who don't deal with that, I mean like people who deal with like like a straight up
Mm-hmm.
mental illness or like a personality disorder or things like
Yeah,
that.
not everyone does.
Yeah, but like you said, everybody does deal with mental health because it's part of it's like your physical
Well,
health too.
to get personal, I my last so my last therapy session,
Yeah.
I had to have. Like I've been really down. Um, there was a point that past week where I didn't want to live. I told it's been really hard. And I was talking to my therapist and we were and I just like my wife when we got married. I wanted to be a doctor and I wanted to be able to provide everything for her and help people and from a certain things in my life, I couldn't do it. It was just wasn't something that after experiencing the medical field, I just didn't want to be a part of it. It was horrific. I saw a child who had burned himself in a propane tank, and I just it's just not a good. It wasn't good for me. And so my wife, we get married thinking that I'm going to be this doctor, and come to find out, we've been struggling with our finances for 22 years. We got married. We had $500 in the bank, and we she had a car. I didn't, and we've been suffering ever since financially. And so I've been in sales. I've been teaching. I've had 3 to 4 jobs at a time always. And then we start this company, and just to see her cry and to be tired and exhausted all the time for helping me make stuff because we're a small batch and it's just her and I and it's rough sometimes and so I was telling him like, did I let her down? Did I feel guilty that this is the life she has when this isn't what she chose, but this is what I've given her. And it's been really rough for me. And then when I hear people in the family, my family, get frustrated with me because I can't do certain things. I can't provide certain things. It's hard on me. And it really hit me hard. And so it's just like, I feel like sometimes, even though you might not have depression or anxiety or anything like that, self worth is hard sometimes for me. Self worth, just knowing that, hey, I'm doing the best I can and it's okay that I'm not able to provide right now for what they need or what they want. I provide everything they need, just what they want. And it's been really rough. And so I haven't felt like that before. I felt that, that's a lie. I felt once before that, but this hit me hard. And I'm like, we need to talk. And this was the day we talked, and I didn't tell you that part, but I told you about the other things. And it's just, I don't feel like, I don't feel like, I feel like a lot of men go through this. I feel like a lot of men want so much for their families, for their loved ones, and we're doing everything we can, and we come home and we're exhausted. I mean, I'm exhausted all the time, and I don't want to do anything else. I just want to go in my room and sleep. But my kids need me, my wife needs me. I need to be there for them, and I but at the same time I need to go back down to the lab and work because I need to provide all get all this stuff. So eventually, hopefully Copper Johns gets to that next level so that I can say, hey, you want to go to that concert? Let's do it. That'll be just so much fun. Or hey, you want to go to McDonald's? Let's do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It gets to that point where it's just like bills or this.
Yeah.
And we just spent $7,000 on an alternate, not an alternator. That's crazy expensive alternator, transmission, and now we just got to get a new air conditioner and heater, and it just wears on me. So that's where I've been
It
this
never
week.
ends. Dude, I'm happy you told me that. I have some mixed emotions.
Yeah.
Because, like, we talk all the time. Like, thank you for telling me that. But at the same time, like, I'm, don't take it the wrong way. I'm kind of mad that you didn't tell me that. You know what I mean?
Because it's embarrassing. Because I've
And
never felt that before.
I 100% know what you're talking about.
I've never felt like the world would be better without me, and I'm tired of feeling this way. And it was, I mean, it was a minute, and I kicked it out of my head, but it was there, and I'm like, I've never had that before.
Yeah.
I felt like Candace would be better without me. I should
Dude.
leave.
I know that.
But I've never felt like that.
So,
And that was scary.
like, that's sometimes all it takes though is a minute,
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, you and I both know people that lost that battle within that minute,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why we're doing what we're doing. So I'm happy you told me that. I think that was amazing that you shared that, because that's what we're doing here. We're bringing perspective and bringing like awareness and ending the stigma. Like I'm gonna get on the soapbox here for a second, and it's gonna sound a little gaggy. Like, you are a tough dude. I consider myself a tough dude. Like, the amount of hours that you put in every single day and you still go home and show up for your family, the amount of hours that I put in every single day, like, it's just, but this is just the proof is that, like, you can be a tough guy, but you can still talk about the things that you're fighting with. Like, you don't have to be in your own head because someone in the, because grandpa said you got to suck it up. And so then that's how your dad did it. And so that's how you do it. Like, no, you can end that. Like, there's absolutely zero weakness in talking about the things that we're fighting. And that's we could end it right there, because that's the whole gist. That's the whole point of mental health awareness. That's the whole point of ending the stigma. The stigma is, like we talked about with Brian, and I've got your 622, is that it is weak to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. And I will fight that till the day that I die, because I feel so much stronger mentally, emotionally, physically, since I have been, like, acknowledging my struggles. Like, since I have been talking with you, and like, I've never acknowledged my struggles to the level I have until we started this podcast. Since I met you, we've only been, like, people are surprised to find out we've only been friends for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And it's a very weird dynamic, but one I'm very grateful for, to meet one of the best friends I'll ever have as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, I mean, it's It's so important to share those types of things, and what's even more important is to find somebody that you can share them with. And the reality is, sometimes people will share those type of things with people, and it will turn out that they were the wrong person.
Oh, 100%.
I've had that happen where I overshared, I was too vulnerable, and it came back to bite me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've had the same thing, and I know there's probably 100 people, 1,000 people listening, whatever, that have had the same experience. And I was going to save this for a little bit, but I feel like that's really kind of pertinent to what we're talking about. So I have a couple of messages that I do want to share that are on the positive side. But this is one that I got almost a month ago, because if you follow any of my social media, you see any of my social media, I I do a lot of funny mental health, relatable stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
then every now and then I will throw in something
Serious.
serious. Um, I got this, and I'm gonna edit it a little bit because the guy uses some pretty vulgar words. Um, do, doesn't follow me. Um, Obviously a troll, but he said, "Mental illness is your fault. You are an effing man. Get over yourself. It took approximately 1 month for shell shock victims from World War I to get on with their lives. If soldiers can overcome shell shock from World War I, then you can overcome your sensitive emotions that are causing your false mental illness. Men literally have turned into women because doctors are telling them nonsense. There is no proof that mental illness exists in the brain." I could not disagree with everything he said anymore,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the stigma right there. That is if you could look up mental illness stigma in the dictionary, it's that guy's comment.
Mm-hmm.
Because wherever he's getting his completely wrong information from, it's the fact that he has any type of platform and has the audacity to message somebody like, "You're wrong, you're weak, like, you're an effing man." Like, that's the problem. That's the problem. Some random stranger on the internet is telling another random stranger on the internet that's trying to help people that it's all fake. You're weak.
Mm-hmm.
Quit being, and then acting like, using the term like, "Oh, men are turning into women," like implying that women are the weaker gender.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, I've watched my wife give birth. I cried.
100% I did.
Like, I watched my wife hold on for dear life when I was in the deepest of the pits, because she was right there with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's our life. We got married. Same thing, dude. She didn't sign up for this.
Mm-hmm.
When you're young and you're in love and you want to be with this person for the rest of your life or for the rest of eternity, or whatever, like, you don't think about this stuff because you haven't experienced it yet. And I hope that nobody does, like, not everybody does. But I love that you said that. And I hate that he said that. I don't use that word. I don't use that word lightly, but that's like, women are not weaker than men in that aspect. Men are not weak for talking about our feelings or talking about the things that we're struggling of. Kind of like, just because somebody told you that those men from World War I got over their shell shock within a month, like, you don't know that for a fact. Were you there? Like,
And
no.
you also look at the statistics
Yeah.
with those who have served and have. There's
Yeah,
a lot of
PTSD is a
suicides.
thing. We just talked about Brian. In
Mm-hmm.
the next episode after this one, we're going to be talking with a buddy of mine that is a Navy vet that talks about that exact thing,
Mm-hmm.
and the survivor's guilt and remorse because some of the buddies that he's lost. Like, those are the type of people that I have almost no problem being like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm getting a little like worked up about that, but like, that's what the problem is. That's what the stigma. That's why mental health awareness exists, is because just because you don't experience it does not mean that it's not true. Does not mean that it's fake. Just because you might have disagreements with big pharma or whatever, like, hey, I don't like big pharma, but somebody along the line that works within that category found a pill that keeps me alive.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on all different kinds, and I hated a lot of them. But this one, that through the help of this professional and this treatment plan, it's working for me.
Mm-hmm.
So why would I refute that because of politics or opinions? So because I stay alive for my family. And and that's a whole nother conversation we can talk about. That it's not just willing yourself into staying.
So there's a lot of people out there who are codependent. So there's a thing called CODA,
Mm-hmm.
CODA.org, I believe is what it is. And there's meetings everywhere. And a lot of codependency people pleasers, a lot of people, that's a form of
Yeah.
codependence, is because of how we were raised. And not that our parents did anything wrong, they did the best they could.
Yeah.
I have no issue with that. And we're doing the best we can. And I'm sure that there's some things that we did that were like, that was dumb. Why did we do that?
Okay.
So the thing with CODA, the codependency, you can meet with all these things, these people all the time. They're through. You can do online, you can do in person, just like AA. And when we deal with trauma, it could be as simple as a dad saying, "I love this kid," and he didn't say it to you, and that could affect you as a small
Yeah.
child. And then next thing you know, you're trying to please everyone because you didn't feel like you got that love. And so I feel like when it comes to there's just so many people pleasers. There's so much trauma out there that people don't realize that they have, and that they've adjusted their personality in order to get that validation. And I feel like more people and not have some sort of disorder that they're not aware of.
Yeah.
I really do.
Well, that's one of the what. So that we could do a whole episode, and I talked about this with my wife on because I don't ever want we don't ever want to portray that we're experts, right? Because I get asked
Oh yeah.
sometimes of like, oh, what's the sign of this or whatever. Like there is, I mean, the signs of a mental illness is or mental health issues or whatever is very broad,
Mm-hmm.
and we could do a whole episode where we talk about like, and maybe we talk about just the science behind like this is this type of mental disorder,
Have an
and
expert,
yeah, we can do the ask an
Dr.
expert section.
Hoskin, come in.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, that's actually a great idea, and so that way we can get more of like the science aspect of it, right? And we can get like the facts aspects from it from like somebody who
Mm-hmm.
is a professional, because sometimes getting the details, just like the black and white details, can really help think through things. But at the same time, like I didn't know for years that the struggles that I was having had a stamp of bipolar. And then
Mm-hmm.
obviously there's 100 subcategories underneath
Oh
each
yeah.
stamp, right? But then it's not so much like oh, as soon as I found out, like, okay, great, like I know I'm bipolar now, everything's gonna be better. Like it was like the battle got harder because now that I knew, and now it was like I had a choice of like I can either try or I can stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
And if I stay the same, these things could potentially happen. Or if I try, things could get better, but they also could still go that way. So just the acceptance, like the accepting the fact that you might have a mental illness is a, a huge battle in and of itself. And I think what you're saying is like that's that applies there because sometimes people don't want to go to the doctor. They don't
Mm-hmm.
want to talk to a friend or whatever because it's like you're afraid that you might actually have something. And then you get the whole aspect of guys like this freaking punk who texted me is that like just the stigma, like people like I didn't tell people for 5 or 6 years, like close friends and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that I was bipolar because I was afraid that people just they just associate that like, oh, you're crazy or you're unhinged or like because there's the jokes of kind of like, oh, I'm being pretty bipolar, and those don't bother me. I know they do some people, but when you get that stamp, you know the you know figurative stamp, like sometimes you feel like that stamp's on your forehead,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you tell people. And I've had instances where you tell people and then there's assumptions and then there's the stigma and then there comes being treated differently. Like it happens all the time. And then that's where people feel weak and they feel less than. Like if you make someone feel less than, like you got some serious work to do.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge opinion I have because I have been, and I know you have too. I've been made to feel less than, and it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It hurts and it sticks with you for a long time. I don't care how tough of a dude you are or how tough of a person, period. if you have someone that you feel like you trusted or you cared about, or even if somebody they don't fit those categories, someone makes you feel like you are beneath, like you're lower than you are, like
Mm-hmm.
it hurts. And it just perpetuates the problem. It perpetuates the stigma. So like if I had anything to say to anybody who is struggling or whatever, like I don't have all the answers. I don't even have them all for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But and when we say things like we did in the last episode of you just got to try. I know it's easier said than done. So if I had anything to say to anybody of like just give yourself the courtesy of exploring what life could be like if you face your problems. Like when you're having just that one moment of clarity, when you're not in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
the minute of darkness or whatever, when the next moment that you're having, that you're feeling a little bit above the water, like do the best you can to jump on it and reach out to somebody and just, or whether it's a doctor, make the appointment. And I know sometimes making the appointment is like the hardest thing to do, but
It is because you don't want to talk about it because
no,
you're just depression makes you want to be by yourself,
yeah, dude.
makes you want to hide, it makes you want to sleep, makes you just want to stay hidden. And I know that for a fact because I've been in a funk for 2 months, just where I have been that way. And what's cool though is you were talking about this. If you're sharing and they make you feel less on, there's something wrong with them. But you hear a lot of guys, and I don't hear a lot of women say this, but I do hear a lot of men say this,
Yeah.
that they will share with their spouse, their significant other, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, or whomever, and they feel like they're being judged and they look
Oh
less
yeah.
on all the time.
Oh yeah.
I share a lot with Candace now. I used to hide it. I'm not going. I used to hide it because I felt like I needed to be strong for her. And we've talked about this in the past, where I feel like, and I like, oh, I hide it well. Like she can't tell.
No,
She can 100% tell.
your wife can tell.
But I explain things to her, and if anything, she builds me up even more.
Mm-hmm.
She is the perfect partner for me, and I love her to death. But she is just amazing, and I can almost guarantee, I can't always guarantee, but I can almost guarantee your loved ones will do the same.
Yeah. And I mean, and I know, I know that there, I mean, because I've had messages and comments from people that they did share
Mm-hmm.
and they did not get the response they were hoping for.
That
Or
hurts.
it does. I mean, especially if it was like, there's guys that have been in my comment sections that have been, they're rightfully so, like they're jaded and be like, nope, I'm not going to do that anymore. Cause I shared it with,
You know what we
they
need to
shared
do?
it and they didn't, or they treated me like this, or they said
Yeah,
they left me or whatever.
we need to create a group, like a Facebook group initially.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm dead serious about this.
Yeah.
Where guys can come and just
Yeah.
relieve their stress and be able to explain and have a brotherhood there, and then
Yeah.
eventually just have a group of like retreats and have people
Yeah.
there and learn. I don't know, like this is just maybe something.
There's a couple out there. I
There
mean,
is, we're going to have a guy on there.
yeah, and but I don't hate that idea. That I've been meaning to kick off the Dad Bods and Beards Facebook page,
Mm-hmm.
but we can probably create a private group within there where guys can come, like, you can, because you
Or
can
just
monitor.
create, say, hey, Dad Bods and Bears is a private group,
Yeah,
and they have to be accepted, and say,
I
hey,
like that.
some of the rules are you will accept, you will, no vulgarity, no nothing like that, no demeaning others
Yeah.
on what they share, and only
Well, maybe
support.
we'll put that out there. If anybody who's listening, if that's something that you'd like, then let us know. Should send us a message, but
Yeah.
we build that up.
Not, we don't want fake positivity. We want anything like, I don't believe in that. I feel like there is a toxic
Oh
positivity
yeah,
because we all go through crap.
yeah,
But at the same time, we can show love and compassion and kindness.
yeah. No, I like that. But I think we've got the gist. I feel of what we're saying, and I feel like everybody knows that that's been listening, whether they're new or they're someone that's been listening for a while. Like it's always something that you and I are very passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
and I know I probably I got a little angry in this episode because I see both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember peacocking, dude, and just playing like I was tough and just playing like nothing was wrong, but like my life was falling apart. And I promise you, rebuilding from that, the longer you wait, the harder you're gonna have to work to rebuild. And I withhold a lot out of respect for my wife, but I will say that the people that are closest to you, and I'm not just saying like, oh, if like the extended family or whatever, like especially if you're an adult, if you're married, you're sharing your life with anybody else, you have a significant other, or if you're just by yourself or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
you have close friends, whatever. It may not be to the same extent, it may not be to the same level that they are affected, but the people that are invested in your life and have proven themselves to you that they care about you, it affects them in their own way and very, very deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And then and that's speaking from experience of my relationship with my wife and watching her struggles from what has happened, you know, to me. Like you said with Candace, like it's not what they signed up for. And not that it's our fault, but there is a level of responsibility where there's your mental illness and there's your mental health, and then there's things that you can affect and you can change, and you've got to work on it, because you've got to try to at least work on it. And there I go saying it again, you've got to try, because you owe it to the people in your life and you owe it to yourself to just to try to improve.
Mm-hmm.
The slightest step forward is better than stagnant. And I wanted to share, maybe I had a few others I'm going to share, but I think I'm going to share this one. Um, and out of just privacy, because if people are sending, I'm not going to share the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, they said, I hold your content close. Um, my brother-in-law took his life last year,
Mm.
and he left behind a son and a daughter. I want to share this one because she pegged me, like, on the nose with my content. Said, thank you for bringing people in with humor, and then speaking truth with vulnerability. She said, suicide changes everything for everyone still here. Said, keep up your fight and know that it matters. That's that's why we do what we do. This isn't a me thing. That's why you and I do this, because it matters. If it's one freaking comment of somebody say this helped, I don't freaking I, we don't that's what matters. And so that's my message, is that you matter, you're important, you're unique. This world is 150% better with you in it, regardless of whatever the darkest part of your mind is telling you. And if the people in your life are not treating you like they love you, it's maybe time to find some new people.
Yeah. I have a very very close, someone who I love deeply. Um, Attempted to take her life twice and self harm multiple times, and I will say it affects loved ones. Like, it's changed who I am.
Yeah.
It's given me it scares me that someone, like I know I told you how I felt, and I truly felt that way, but I kicked it out just because I know exactly how I felt. To lose this individual in my life, if luckily we didn't, but to lose this individual, luckily they took medication, a whole bottle of it that was slow reacting, or if it was just regular pills,
Yeah.
she would be gone. And to have her in our life I'm so grateful that she's still here. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's rough. Sometimes you're just like, what can I do to help her? And it does wear on my mental well-being, because how much effort I have to put into showing how much I love this individual. It's hard.
Yeah.
But man, how hard would it be if they weren't here? And I'm so grateful that she's alive. I'm so grateful that she's around. I will wholeheartedly always be there for her, and like love no matter what, like no matter what. But sheesh, there's got to be something for me, for you, for someone who people who are struggling, even contemplating, and that's what I mean. There's coda, there's so many groups out there that bipolar groups. There's codependency groups. There's what's help me here.
There's anxiety.
Anxiety groups, depression groups, but the
like a personality disorder.
personalities, like any disorder that you may have or anything, like there's a group out there. There's people who are spouses or loved ones of those groups for support to how to handle that.
Yeah.
And it's just like you have no excuse to get better or to try to get better. And you need to be there for your family. You need to be there for your friends and all that. But
no, I agree. And the one thing that I wish didn't make one thing that I wish made it easier to do and wasn't so hard is, I looked into a lot of those groups, right? Is it, sometimes it's hard financially to find those groups, or like getting insurance to cover it.
they're free. They're all free.
Oh, some of them are free. Well, that's something that, even for me in my experiences, there's some that I didn't know existed like that. So we need to do our research and put those links on our page. So I just wanted to end this with wholeheartedly putting out there as best I can that if there's anybody who is listening that is struggling with this or anything like this, especially suicidal thoughts, yes, there are hotlines that you can call. You can call straight up 911 if you needed to, but please message us. Like, send us send us a message on Instagram. Like, I try to comb through and I try to see these messages, but I will put in that much more effort too, because if I have to be the one, or you have to be the one to help somebody or send them a link or just to reach out, I'd rather that happen than find out that somebody didn't want to ask someone for help. So you got to take care of yourself. I said over and over again, like, you got to try in the best way possible and take care of yourself.
Cue music.
Cue music.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. It means the world to us. If you have a chance, please give us a 5-star review, as well as write something a little pretty in there so that we know that you know that we know that you care. Anyway, have a great day, guys. I can't do it.
Dude, that was good. I liked that. You got to redo it without laughing. That was good.